Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad, your favorite podcast for learning how to balance between being a functional adult and a raging dumpster fire. Joining me inside the Bachelor Pad today is Dr. Jessica Gold. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm having a great time already, Josh.
Being a dumpster fire is actually it's really not that bad. You know, we burn beautifully. People can't take their eyes off of us. So why not enjoy it?
Hell yes.
And plus, I think we all can kind of relate. We've all been a little bit of a hot mess at times, either
Oh
now
yeah.
or later. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for making time to be here today. I was like, you're out on the West Coast right now.
Yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
California.
Oh, I'm a little jealous. It's really rainy and kind of like muggy here. So I'm pretty sure you have better weather than we do right now.
It was beautiful today and 75 and sunny. Yes.
Listen, I'm just living through you right now. So I'm okay with it. You have a very surprising background. I think you might be the first person I know. I think that I read that you went to a pretty well known university. Uh,
Yes.
can you tell me, just walk me back, what made you first want to even think about going to MIT?
Oh, such a good question. So I grew up in West Texas. It was all about guns, God, oil, and cattle. And listen, I get it. That's awesome for some people, but it just wasn't my thing. And I just always felt different. And I didn't quite fit in. But one thing I really excelled at was studying. I was so good at studying. I love learning things and I was reading all the time. I realized that just going to an amazing school was going to be my ticket out. And I loved math and science. I wanted to study the fundamental nature of reality. I was also interested in space and maybe studying aeroastroengineering, and MIT has the best program in the nation for aeroastroengineering. And so when I went to visit colleges, I was on the MIT campus and I just felt it. And I turned to my dad and I was like, I'm going to go here. This is where I'm going. And nobody believed me, but I applied early admission and got in. And then I was like, okay, I'm done.
Oh, so you were like smart, because like early admission is just not for the regular crowd. That's for the people who know what they want and have the capacity to perform. So
Well,
kudos to
thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I was book smart. It's what I was good at, but when it comes to street smart or relational smarts, I was not smart.
I don't think anybody is a natural right off the bat. You know, I was like,
Right.
we all need a little bit of work. How do we go from MIT to Tantra? Because Tantra is a very much intrinsic energy, you know, being in touch with your body. MIT and science is very logical. I'm not saying they're opposites, but you usually don't see them hand in hand.
Exactly. I mean, they really are. It's just wild. I never expected this to be my life because listen, I was a dyed in the wool scientist. It was all science all the time. I never even studied history or English or anything at MIT. It was just, well, I did study French, French, neuroscience, and chemistry. I made fun of anything to do with energy or intuition, even, or God forbid, astrology, all of those spiritual things. I I was just like, no way. But the thing is, I was living stuck in my head and I was trying to figure everything out with my mind and using logic and suppressing my emotions because I thought they were weak and denying the body. And because at MIT and then also afterwards for my PhD, you have to really be a machine in order to get a PhD in a scientific field. There's no space, especially as a woman, to appear different, to have any emotions. You have to really, really be ultra focused, like steel. So after MIT, I did my PhD at UC Berkeley. So I moved to California and I didn't realize what that meant. I was just like, Berkeley is the #1 PhD program for chemistry in the nation. So I'm going to go there, obviously, because I want to do really, really fantastic research. What I found here were people pushing the boundaries in every field. I ended up marrying a therapist and he was into Buddhism and then getting involved in the underground sex party communities that are out here. And I met people who were pushing the boundaries in dance, in psychedelics, in sex, in psychology, just in every realm. It was just an explosion of experimentation. I started to slowly be in more and more situations that cracked me open. One of the most impactful things was I started going to Burning Man regularly. And I know it might sound like unbelievable, but it is truly what happened. I was camping with an authentic relating camp there for multiple years in a row. And I had the experience of really nobody giving a fuck about my pedigree or my studies or the schools I went to or any external things I used to define myself. All they cared about was my presence in the moment. And I realized I had no idea who I was without all of those external structures. And I had very little ability to connect deeply in the moment with people.
There was a lot there that I want to touch on. There's something about being able to leave your title, leave your status behind, and just be your authentic self. Because a lot of times, especially when you're in a science dominated field, it's all about accomplishments. Where did you come from? Because that matters too.
Yeah.
But when you're at a festival, like I said, I've never made it to Burning Man, but I've been to plenty of festivals. And they're the shortest but deepest connections you'll ever really encounter with anybody. Because they're just two souls who like are into the same thing at the same time, like who just happen to collide at the same place. So I can understand that's a beautiful experience. The West Coast is different than West Texas. Full stop.
Right. 100%.
So I understand how you have to go from I'm a Midwest boy. So it was like we're kind of plain Jane, so to speak. And that was a whole lot of spice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in West Texas too, it's about like the West Texas socialite, and it's all about appearances and all about trying to like make people like you. So I was always just trying really hard to please other people instead of like having good boundaries or noticing what I really wanted or what was good for me and taking care of myself. And I specialize in working with men, like really smart, nerdy men like me who are scientists or in tech or founders or in leadership like I was. And they all tell me the same story too when it comes to relating to women, which is they're trying to make her happy. And they sometimes abandon themselves in that process. Like they say yes to things they're not a yes to. They bend over backwards to please her instead of holding their own boundaries and saying no, because out of fear of upsetting the woman that they're dating or that they're with, which is totally understandable, but it's a paradigm that doesn't work well in long-term relationships.
And I find that is a common trait, especially when we feel like we're doing the reaching in a relationship. Mm-hmm. Because very rarely do you find two people who feel like we deserve each other. We're both coming with the same amount of contribution to a relationship. That's usually something that levels out after time. But when you feel like you're lucky to be in this position, you really will do just about any and everything at the expense of losing your identity.
Yeah. And we call that nice guy syndrome. And it will cause her to lose respect and then lose desire for you.
So what I think I'm hearing is you think nice guys kind of do finish last.
Yes. But nice is different from
there's
kind.
No hesitation in that. There's no hesitation in that answer. I love that.
Yep. And nice is different from kind. I'm not saying be mean. Like the opposite of nice is not asshole.
That's so true. It's like the difference between being a dog and being a cat, like dog energy and cat energy. Like I was like, they're like, no, you just have to be like a cat. Like that's what women want. You just to be aloof and like not caring. And I was like, I don't know. But also you don't want to be a golden retriever, just like drooling super all over the face. You just have to find that balance. And I think that's true. At least that's how I can relate it the most.
I love that analogy. I mean, in my work, I love giving men and couples permission to explore their full range of self-expression. So sometimes you can be a golden retriever, but sometimes maybe you want to be a cat. Sometimes you want to be a wild animal, a wild beast, or a hero, right? So there's this whole range to explore.
And that's so true. We're never just one thing. There are layers, there are different components. And it is okay, I feel like, to dabble in multiple of those aspects. Like I said, at the core, you just really have to figure out who you are and what you're looking for. At least with some of the men that I deal with, they don't really know what type of partner they want, or they feel like they don't know what women want. So they're like, well, I don't know what to do because I don't know what they're looking for. And I was like, yeah, that probably would cause the dog to chase its tail. But did you ever ask yourself, what are you looking for?
Oh,
Because I'm pretty
bingo.
sure that like women are pretty definite or have a general idea of what they want in a man or what they're looking for. Would you
Mhm.
agree?
Yeah, and it's different, and women are not a monolithic entity. Just like there's lots of variation between men, there's lots of variation between women, so you're gonna lose all of them if you try to please all of them. But the thing is, like before I discovered Tantra, I didn't think it was okay to be me. And I find that a lot in the men that I work with. And they're like, I don't think it's okay to want what I want or to be who I am. Who is gonna love me? And so that's where the work starts.
Yeah.
And I had to talk about a dumpster fire. I left my academic career after 10 years as a scientist. My career just came to an end, and I was embarrassed, I was full of shame, but I just couldn't see a way forward as a scientist. And I started saying yes to what scared me, and I ended up divorced, alone on a tropical island with no income, no career, and no clue what I was going to do with my life.
Wow.
You know, yeah,
Yeah.
like
That does
living in
seem
a chicken
scary.
shack. Yeah.
But that also seems like the perfect moment where literally the sun just comes out of nowhere and you have an aha moment. So, how did we get to this moment?
Well, I was looking at some pretty gnarly politics that were playing out in academia and watching my advisor, my postdoctoral fellowship advisor. She was really struggling. And I also was looking at what I would need to do to become a professor. And you have to have confidence of steel to be a professor because you have to decide this is what I'm going to create. And this is why it's going to change the world. And then you have to represent that in front of panel after panel after panel to get funding. And I couldn't find anything that I wanted to stand behind that I knew would work or that I felt confident about. I was looking at what was happening in terms of publishing research and how all of the like backstabbing and fighting. And I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing that. And then something within me, it was like a voice from my heart. I remember one day I was like standing in lab pipetting a radioactive solution over and over again, which is like dangerous, boring, and annoying, you know? It was like alone on a Saturday afternoon with like a multi-channel pipetter over and over into 96 well plates. It was literally a moment where my heart said, you are not supposed to be doing this anymore. And I really didn't want to listen to it because I was like, oh, what's my family going to think? And I feel so embarrassed walking away from 10 years of really intense work as a scientist. But it had been slowly building and I knew it was right. So I put my pipette down, published my research, and left.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you just gotta wash your hands, you know? That's a thing that I'm starting to really focus on more and more is don't get me wrong, life is tough. And when things get hard, I'm not saying to fold in, but sometimes you really have to ask yourself, what do I want out of life? And am I okay diminishing my own flame? That's something that I started to realize is working for so many different people that they really don't care how brightly you shine as long as you're lighting up their room. I don't want to be a light bulb, okay? I want to be a star. I want to be outside free, just of my own accord, burning and gassy and just doing whatever I want, you know? But a lot of people are afraid to really think, is it okay if I do this for me? And I could only imagine, like I said, the men that you work with also feel that way is it okay for me to want to have all these
Yes.
wants? What's one of the biggest either misconceptions or kind of mistakes that you see a lot of men in that leadership or, you know, kind of tech role or science role that you work with make in their personal lives?
Well, honestly, I've had so many men make the mistake of following the advice of happy wife, happy life.
Mm. That it's a tale as old as time, but there is some merit to it. But tell me why you think that that's such a mistake that they make.
So, what happens is it causes them to not lean into the relationship. They don't bring up the hard stuff. They just assume that if something's wrong, she will bring it up. So that puts all the onus on her to be the one who tends the relationship. And they also don't allow her to have any feelings other than peaceful or happy. If anything other than that's coming up, they do their best to just logic it away, rationalize it away, tell her she shouldn't feel that way, like talk her out of it. And so it creates an unsafe emotional environment for the relationship. And when she doesn't feel safe with you, then she won't feel desire.
That's, you know what, that is one of the most common things that we've heard throughout all the seasons, guys. That women tend to open up when they feel safe, when they feel comfortable, when they feel that you're actually listening. I could see how making somebody doubt themselves, the one-sided affection could, like, it's almost like what I've said, diminish their light. As men, I was like, we were always taught that it's our job to make our woman happy, happy wife, happy life. But the application is something that nobody's ever gone over with. So what do you usually recommend to kind of help these people pivot?
Right. Well, first, what I recommend is learning how to skillfully bring up stuff that's bothering you in the moment instead of letting resentments build. That's the first thing. So, how to say, hey, babe, that kind of hurt when you talked to me that way. I know you meant well and I know we love each other, but it hurt. Can we talk about this? Right. So, starting to stand up for yourself with love when things aren't going well. Now, that can be a lot, just that, because for a lot of men, that brings up a deep, visceral fear. And it doesn't work to just be like, I don't care, push through the fear, do it anyway. The fear needs to be addressed. And this is the tantric approach, because tantra is about radical acceptance of the truth of your moment to moment experience of life, which means accepting exactly what you're feeling in your body without saying that you shouldn't feel this or you shouldn't feel that or that it should be different. No, there's none of that idealism. It's more about getting curious about what are you actually experiencing right now and what does it need? How do you want to work with that? And it's really awesome because so a lot of things in Star Wars were related to tantric principles, like the Force and the Jedi Knights. These, even the way some of the monsters are. Oh wait, no, I'm getting that one wrong. But some of these are based on tantric principles because tantrics were masters of working with energy, and emotions are a form of energy.
I had
And
never
when
heard that before. Sorry to interrupt. I was like, I
oh,
had
totally
never
fine.
heard that before. That's wild. If you're Star Wars fans, like that means you should maybe start practicing some tantra. But go on, finish what you were
Yeah,
saying.
please jump in anytime. Yeah, so it's like use the Force, Luke. Like
That's
when you learn to work with your body and the emotions skillfully, it's like you'll look like a Jedi Master. You'll look like you have special powers. It's that cool.
for people who are super logical and science based. You have to realize, like, we know that the body's full of electromagnetic pulses. So why is it so hard to believe that we can act on or manipulate these forces internally or externally to create pleasure, to relax ourselves, to connect with each other? I say if life's one big chemical reaction, it seems pretty plausible to me.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it was really hard for me as a scientist, a strict head based scientist, logic only, to start to admit that there were other forms of relevant information that I could include that would help me navigate the world. But once I started, because I really thought that if I started listening to my intuition or paying attention to my emotions, that I would end up homeless on the street. I honestly, it was that extreme.
That I'm like not 100, but I built a great amount of people listening right now could relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
You know that.
And so in Tantra, there was three centers. There are three main centers of wisdom. There's like your gut and your sexual center. They're kind of combined into one.
Okay.
And then there's your heart center. And then there's your third eye, higher wisdom. And the information from all of these is important. And the cool thing is that today we know from neuroscience and biochemistry that there's actually a ton of neurons around your heart. And there's so many neurons in your gut that it's the size of a cat brain. So you actually do have, smart brains in your body. And we have the vagus nerve, which 90% of the fibers are afferent, meaning it's pulling most of its information from your body straight into your brain all the time. You just have to be able to listen to it.
That is such a wild fact. That I mean, a cat brain. I don't know if I've ever pictured how big a cat brain would be, but I'm guessing it's like around the size of a tennis ball. So like that many neurons around your heart. I mean, that's wild. The body's crazy. I love learning new things about it. Like it never gets old to me.
Yeah.
Also, an
And
intrusive thought that I had
yeah.
is when you told me the Star Wars fact, I just imagined people, instead of having lab coats, just in like Jedi robes, just going around
Yeah.
experiments now. Like that's gonna be stuck in my head forever.
That is so cool, Joshua. But the cool thing was when I stopped trying to logic my way through life, I actually stopped having chronic fatigue and anxiety. It relaxed, everything flowed more easily, and it just became a lot juicier
Really?
life. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It was easier. I felt more powerful. Everything was just better. So my lived experience was that it actually led me to not have to try so hard and to like relax into a certain flow. And then things arose more easily for me, the things that I wanted. And this is really key when relating to women, is to like relax and to flow, read the energy, like listen to what your heart's saying, what your gut's saying, instead of trying to be like, does she want this or does she want that?
Yeah, I was like, listen, I'm not Houdini. I can't read your mind. There are patterns, but like I said, I think one of the biggest things that's appreciated from my partners is the fact that you just show up and you try. Nobody ever gets mad at you for trying. You know, even if you don't get it right, or if you do, they're at least appreciative of that fact. So once you try and you start to get a handle and you start to increase your EQ a little bit, along with, like I said, just knowing how you feel. Sometimes you can just feel things, like when people need hugs, or so the closer and the more time you spend with people, the more your body starts to pick up on those little minute nuances. This is something that we kind of talked about with Dr. Elsa, who also deals in the tantric space. A few months back, heart energy. We talked about, like I said, there's a lot of energy of the heart. Is there a practice that really helps you kind of get into your body or connect with a partner, or, or with yourself? Because that's a really important relationship to maintain, I think, is one with self. So is there
Yes.
just something that kind of helps you stay grounded?
So, what I love about Tantra is that for me, it's all about micro practices.
Okay.
It's really like threaded through my daily life. I know Tantra, people think of Tantra as sex. Neo Tantra is more of what covers sacred sexuality, the unshaming
Mm-hmm.
of our sexual self in service of awakened relating. And I love that. And I've gotten so much out of those practices. But the classical spiritual practice of Tantra is an awareness practice in service of your liberation, like liberation from suffering. So, like, I'll be practicing right now while I'm talking to you. I'll be breathing into my root, into my feet, feeling my body grow roots into the earth, for example. And I can be doing that anywhere that I'm sitting or standing, while I'm teaching, while I'm in session. So I'm really like noticing what energy is needed in this moment from me, right? And
Mm.
if I noticed I got up here and I'm like talking all this heady energy, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to breathe roots into the earth and bring some more earth energy grounding into this interaction. Also, like anytime there's a transition moment, if I get up from a meeting, I'm walking to get a snack, it's what am I aware of as I walk? Am I opening my five senses to take in like the feel of the wood floors, the smell of the beautiful forest, the sounds of the birds, right? It's a sensory practice and allowing myself to take in the sensory pleasure in every moment. So those are some of the things that allow me to stay connected. Of course, there's like specific breathing techniques to breathe into your heart and move heart energy back and forth between partners that are super juicy and fun that I teach in my workshops and in my online course called Neo Tantra Foundations. But it's the solo practices that really changed my life, like these micro practices of moment to moment awareness.
Yeah, and I really believe those are vital, um, to really start doing those self practices before you try to jump into partner work, because we've had a lot of different practitioners on here. And one thing that I'm pretty sure we've all agreed on is energy can be chaotic sometimes. So that's not what you want to pass on to anybody else. You want to have, like, we think fluid, we think, liquid, it's calming. That's like the best energy to share. So if you're super high energy, like you said, when you get super heady sometimes, having the resources and the mindset to just, you said, take a deep breath, ground yourself, feeling the earth beneath you is so powerful. That's why I never wear socks, like 90% of the time, is because I like to feel where I'm at. Because it just reminds me that we're part of something bigger.
I'm totally
so no matter how
barefoot right
big my
now.
problems seem, I can just release it to this, back into Terra, and it's small.
And one thing I love to tell my clients is, and this is what I do, like if I'm in a social situation, or let's say I'm talking to a guy or a girl who I think is hot,
Ooh.
and I'm getting nervous,
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, let me just breathe into my heart. And what if I can just love this person right now? Just like stand there and love myself and love them and know that I'm enough and I don't need to do anything different but just be there in presence with them. That has helped me so many times to stop, worrying or being critical or getting distracted. So that's always available to you. And as a tantric practitioner, you work with these energies in your solo practice so that then when you're in social situations or stressful situations, they're like automatic.
And I mean, like you said, with anything you do, like learning, sports, cooking, you have to build your fundamentals, and then they just become second nature. Your breath is part of that. Just being aware of your surroundings. Like I said, picking up on your partner's cues, being conscious of your words, because words are energy too. Like I said, the more you start to focus on those, it just becomes second nature, and then you start to realize how it affects other people. Because some people, I feel like, are careless with their words, their energy, and they just kind of let it seep out. Have you ever encountered somebody? Well, I'm pretty sure you have.
So
I'm not gonna ask that.
there's something else I would love to say about the practices that you can do as a man, if that's
Yeah.
all right.
Oh,
Okay.
of course.
So this is a gift that you can give the woman in your life, men. Imagine that she's really upset about something, and you, instead of meeting her fire with fire, you immediately start breathing roots into the earth and you ground yourself. Now, the cool thing is that scientifically, we know that once you regulate your nervous system that way, it will actually pull hers more into regulation too. So she's really going off and upset, and you're like, okay, ground, ground, I'm breathing, I'm holding this space for her. Then that allows you to say, babe, tell me more about that. What's going on for you? Right? To just lean in toward her and get curious
Right.
because you've resourced yourself. You're holding this space. And it's such a gift you can give her. She will respect you for it. She will love you. She will smile and give you a hug. It's an amazing thing to do. Now, of course, this doesn't mean you should ever be taking abuse from her or accusations or anything like that. Hold your boundaries, right? Stand
Of
up for
course.
yourself. But if it's just like she's upset and you don't know how to react or what to do, ground and then say, tell me more, babe.
Now, that kind of answered the next question that I had for you. And that was just going to be, what would you love to see men do more of? And that active listening and practicing the 3 T's, what we call in our practice, of time, tone, and turf,
Ooh.
they really do make a difference, because that male energy is usually more impulsive. Would you say that it would actually be an attractive trait, if the lack of impulsivity sometimes, like you said, just being grounded? Do you think that is attracting
Yes.
or attractive?
Yes. Absolutely. To see my partner hold his center in the face of me being upset is like, wow, I really respect you. Um, it's so hot too. I'm like, what do you want? I'll do anything.
Yes, that's what we need more of. Because they're okay. Like, while we're on this vein, besides holding their center, other things that you think for you personally that you find attractive in a partner that really, like, just not physical things, but intrinsic traits that just kind of make you like swoon, so to speak?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I really see relationships as a spiritual practice. For me, it's an opportunity to really grow and like come face to face with our shit. Like to call each other in to like, listen, you're doing that thing you said you didn't want to do anymore. There's two things. Let me say it this way. I love it when he has good boundaries. Like, I know that he will tell me no if he doesn't want to do something, or if I'm behaving in a way that is out of integrity for me. Like, if I'm getting defensive, or, if whatever, I'm like not regulating my emotions enough or something, he will be like, hey, babe, this isn't what you committed to doing, in your work in this life. I know I can count on him to hold the line. And that doesn't absolve me of responsibility for like dealing with my own shit, but it's like we're collaborating together in this, and he's not going to let me walk all over him. Uh, Not that I would try to, right? But it's like,
Every once in a while, we get a little too brazen, and like we
yeah,
might cross the lines. I always say no is sexy, and what I mean by
yes,
that is just the honesty in a no is super attractive to me,
yes,
because I say this. Sometimes my head gets a little too big, a little too full of itself, and I need a partner who can look me in the eye and be like, lovingly, respectfully,
yeah,
relax. Because I do too much sometimes. It's part of being a dumpster fire. I can, but I also love the fact as much as I'm a rock for you, you can be a rock for me. That's what balance is. That's what an actual partnership is about.
yeah. So when he having good boundaries, I know that I can trust his yes to be a real yes, and I know I can bring him anything, and he will tell me the truth. Like he'll be like, I don't have time to talk about this right now, or yes, let's go into this. And I know I never have to feel guilty or worry about being too much, because I know that he has this inner sense of self-worth, self-respect, and he honors his commitments.
And consistency is also another attractive trait that a lot of people don't consciously think of sometimes. Whether
Mm-hmm.
that's, and I don't just mean doing what you say you're going to do, but the consistency of presence and of
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean by that?
Maybe give me an example.
I feel like there are just certain character traits that are steadfast about your partner. Whether that, what's a good one? Like you said, accountability. He will always hold you accountable when need be. Or I don't know. It's hard to think of one in the moment, but they're just things that that he'll do. You're not surprised when he's there to support you. You're not surprised when he does the little things like take the trash out without being told, or whatever subtle nuance that you guys have, whatever dynamic. Or he knows she doesn't like, over easy eggs on her avocado toast. She likes it scrambled. So when he
Totally.
sees that it came out, scrambled her like the wrong way, he's like, hey, this isn't right. Your partner is consistent in the fact that they show up.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And I think this is something that men make the mistake of doing. I was just talking to a professional athlete the other day, and he told me, he was like, look, Jessica, I became successful because I thought that's what it was all about. But then my relationship suffered, and none of that success mattered anymore. It was scary as shit because I was looking at being totally alone all of a sudden. But he was like, relating was confusing and stressful. And I didn't know how to do it because he'd never studied it. We don't teach men how to relate.
Right.
He had made his work his mistress. Work was logical, it was reliable, he knew what to do, he was successful at it. So, really leaning into your relationship, even if it's confusing and you don't feel good at it. And so, for example, my partner, he regularly says, okay, we need a relationship check-in twice a month. So we'll go for a hike together and we'll share, what we love about each other, what's working great, and then what if there's anything sticky that we need to talk about, to bring up and to come back into love around. And it just having that pulse and knowing that he initiated that and he thinks about it and he will bring it up and he will find a way for us to have time to do it is incredible. And even if you don't have time for a hike, when you're walking the dog, right, it's like these micro moments of connection
Mm-hmm.
that really count. Or he'll say, "Look, we've got to turn off our computers at 9 p.m. and have some time to cuddle together on the couch." Like, we cannot work right up until
Mandatory.
bed and fail to cuddle. Yeah. And I just know that he's there and that he's thinking about the relationship and he's thinking about the quality of the connection between the two of us. And that just warms my heart.
No, like I
Yeah.
said, I mean that's exactly what I was talking about when that's that consistency of presence. It really is the little things, but I am not a traditional guy in the sense that I believe in a quality relationship.
Mm.
I say if I didn't tolerate a C on my report card, why would I want that in my relationship? I don't want average. Okay,
Hell
I
yeah.
want better than. Okay,
Yeah.
we're A+ partners over here, or at least we're trying to be on the honorable. Okay,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. You want to be able to have open communication and be curious about, I say you have to learn each other's operating manual. Okay, how do I operate him? How does he work?
That's right. That's something that changes with each and every partner that you interact
Yeah.
with or that you add on because they're not the same. Some of them are drastically different.
Totally. I do want to speak to the consistency piece. I have a client who, try as he might, he cannot manage to consistently invite his partner into a connection practice every day. And she really wants him to, but he just can't seem to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And, we explored it with him a little bit. And there was a way in which inconsistency, of course, was a coping mechanism, right, for something in his childhood. And so I was like, I think you just need to own it. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to be some sort of stoic robot as a man. Like, don't go too far in that direction too. And just tell your partner, babe, I I am just inconsistent in this way that I don't know if I'm going to change that in this life. I'm going to try, but it's a really strong coping mechanism I've had. And can you love me anyway? Can you love that about me?
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's tough. A lot of men have trouble with not just expressing that, but asking for the permission, so to speak, to be like, hey, there are just some things that we don't like admitting that we're not good at things.
Right.
We want to feel like we're
Yeah.
Superman. We can do anything.
Yep.
But I think it shows more growth and is more respectable to be, hey, I'm an imperfect being. Here are my flaws. Can you accept them and help work with me to try to improve them?
It's so hot when you do that from an empowered place as a man. Like, for example, my partner, he's just messy. Like, try as he might, he can't seem to remember to pick up after himself. And I'm more of a neatnik. And I was just like, am I going to make this an issue, or am I going to be like, this is just a difference and I'm going to love him anyway and know that that's how it is? Right.
Yeah,
And he owns it. He's like, babe, I've tried everything. I feel like I'm better than I used to be, but this is just who I am right now. Right. So he wasn't collapsed into poor me. He wasn't like needy around it. He just owned it.
yeah.
And I really respect him for that. And that gives me permission to be a mess about stuff sometimes too.
I was like, because we all have a thing. It's not just a him thing or a her thing. I was like, we all have that one thing that we could probably be a little better on. But speaking of operating systems, I kind of want to swing around to a pretty big thing you did that not a lot of people get to do. You had a TED Talk.
Yes.
You did.
Thank you.
Let us hear about that. I don't get to hear too many speakers actually talk about their TED Talks.
Cool. That's a great question. Yeah. I went to a conference and I was sitting next to a woman at lunch and we were having a great convo. And she said, I love your energy. Do you want to give a TED Talk? It turned out she was an organizer for a TEDx. Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, I do.
How do you say no to that? That's the real
I
question.
know. I'm like, there's no way I'm saying no to this. And I had 4 weeks to prepare, which, guys, because I had to figure out what to wear. I like shoe. I mean, it was a whole
No, it's
thing.
important. It's important because there's like so many people see this and it's probably live on the internet forever. So yeah, what you wear matters.
They won't take it down. They will not take it's there forever. And also figuring out like, what do I stand for? How can I say it in a succinct way that's also relatable and just publicly own who I am and what I'm passionate about? I mean, it was terrifying and a chance to really organize my thoughts.
And like I said, it takes a big opportunity that sometimes to really find out what the core principles of your practice are. because you're like, what do I deem important or like necessary to communicate to this audience about me, about my practice, about this one topic?
Yeah.
So, like I said, I can't imagine how great of an experience that was for you from start to finish. It probably did wreck the nerves a little bit, but it was super rewarding, I imagine.
And I loved being on stage. When it was over, I was like, wait, it's over? I want to keep talking.
Can I do
So
another one right now?
I'm very interested in speaking more on stage. So if anyone listening is looking for speakers for an event, please let me know.
And
I
guys, you
tell
already know
really bad chemistry jokes. So, your audience will love my bad chemistry jokes.
no such thing as a bad joke. But guys, if you are listening, you know I already put her Instagram handle down there below in the show notes. So just go give her a follow, shoot her out if you are needing speakers for any engagement. That kind of brings me into my favorite part of the show. And I think you'll enjoy it too. And that's our
Okay.
quickie questions.
Ooh.
Now, the first question I have is this one's easy. This is the not so bad bachelor pad. So I have to ask you, what's your current status? Are you partnered, unpartnered, just enjoying life as it comes?
I'm very blessed to have the relationship of my dreams, and we are very happy doing our weird thing together. Yeah, so I have a partner. He's incredible. We co-founded a tech company together last year called Digital Wisdom, in addition to the coaching company that I run, and we're having a blast.
That's great. Not a lot of people get to work with their significant other doing something that they're both passionate about. So, like I said, just big claps, big love for that. This question is tried and true since day one, but I never get tired of asking it. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something about relationships or, development, what would that be?
I would say stand up for yourself and stop trying to please.
I mean, it's something that in some of these pieces of advice, most of them are things that are so simple, but it really does take us to go through some stuff before we're like, why have I not been doing this all along? And that's just a prime example.
And don't live your life out of fear when it comes to relating. Like, don't let fear win.
Sorry, I actually wrote some of these down that I really specifically wanted to ask. What is your favorite way to express intimacy and then receive it?
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's hard to pick.
I know, and there's so many ways, but you gotta have one that just really just feels good.
Okay. Well, one is a little bit esoteric, so I'll give you two. One is just kind of teasing each other with like feather light touch all over the body, like even on the couch, just like creating little energy currents, little mini fireworks in me through light touch, just teasing like those little shivers, that frisson through the body.
Oh,
Like,
was that
yeah,
some French? Like,
that's
I don't think we heard
French.
that. Say it again for us.
Frisson.
Oh,
I speak French. So yeah, that's my favorite thing. Like on the couch, my partner will just be touching me and I'll just be like, oh my God, please don't stop. Keep doing that. So
no,
and then as a tantric practitioner, one of the things that I was blessed to get to do was to like make sex, like nerd sex, like an experiment, like a science experiment.
oh, wow.
So I really give myself permission to try new things, to be awkward. And so, for example, he will lay down and I will try a practice on him and he'll give me feedback and then we'll switch roles. But so one of the things that I really, we love to do to each other is I like to do breath work and receive pussy massage. So I just get to totally surrender. I get in an altered state. I get heightened pleasure and I just get like a slow, sweet massage of this part of my body. And that's kind of a hallmark of Neo Tantra practice. I also have a program that teaches that for him and for her. Yeah, so we love doing that together. That's one of my favorite things.
I just wanted to clarify, like, so you were talking about, like, you do the, like, breath work and like, the vulva massage, or, like, combined, like, breath
Combined.
work while we're getting the vulva
Yes.
massage.
Yes.
Which is really, guys, I'm going to dip into my secret bag and I'm going to share some stuff with you. When I started studying Wim Hof and Tantra and some of these other, like Reiki, and I really started working with breath, when I introduced that, like I said, into my more intimate life, it definitely skyrocketed things. When
Yeah,
you can control and play with breath, the intensity, no
it's a
words,
whole.
just
Yeah, I can
yeah,
feel that in you.
it-
Yes, you
yes,
know.
trust me.
It's a good word.
Penultimate question I have for you. I see there's a bookshelf over there.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm like turning 30 in a few months, and my goal has been to fill up my bookshelf. Is there a book besides you that you think would be a great recommendation, or is just a solid read that some people should pick up?
Yes, I love
I know
this question
I
because
should have prepared you for this question instead of just bringing it on you, but I saw the opportunity.
I give you three. So I would say it depends on what you're looking for. If you want a deep dive into tantric spirituality that will fucking blow your mind with its gorgeousness and insane, just insane wonder and awe and power, I really recommend the Recognition Sutras by Christopher Wallace. He was one of my teachers. That he translated an old tantric text from like 1,000 years ago about, and it's about like the deeper meaning of life and the spiritual practice of tantra, but it is gorgeous. I mean, I could read this book over and over for the rest of my life. So if you want to deep dive into classical tantra, um, existential kink, I love this practice. It's about like facing your inner demons, facing your fears, and it's profoundly liberating and wild and unexpected and smart. She's a PhD also. It is a fantastic book that will change your life forever. And then a very practical, very easy book is The 80/80 Marriage by Nate and Kaylee Klemp. And it tells you exactly how to lean into your relationship, gives you easy practices, and it will solve your relationship problems. So there you
I
go.
have been super lucky. I don't know if they'll air in this order, but the last three guests I've had have been really good at giving book recommendations. So in the month of August, guys, your bookshelf is going to be full because we've gotten at least like 12 recommendations, one after the other, that all seem genuinely super interesting to read. Um, so I'm definitely going to have to take a look to see which one of those is going to end up on the bookshelf, if not a couple. And then the last question I have for you, in this one, take your time. You don't have to rush on it. But we were talking about earlier how you've been a guest on a lot of podcasts. And so I like to do something different that a lot of hosts probably don't do. And I want to turn it over to you. Is there a question or just a subject that you've really wanted to talk about, but you always feel pigeonholed or time just gets away from you, so you never really get to get into it?
Whoa, that's a great question. Let's see. Let me think about this. I think one of the questions that I don't get to talk about much is the process of being a businesswoman, like the process of changing my identity to be from scientist to entrepreneur. Because I started my own business 7 years ago, my first business, and it was in an avant-garde field, right? In sexuality. I'm
Right.
an executive relationship coach for men in tech and powerful nerds everywhere. And I also specialized in working with sexuality, like tantric sexuality. And as a scientist, and then I spent, over 4 years living in spiritual communities in Asia. I didn't have any training in business. And so, but to be a woman in the field that I'm in, which caused a lot of confusion because I think traditionally a woman who has anything to do with Tantra was thought of as a sex worker. And that's just not me. That's not what I do. So, also to hold my own and to wade into the minefield of like censorship and how do I talk about sex publicly, but also how do I say, hey, I can help you and have that deep inner confidence and also market in a way that feels in integrity for me, that doesn't feel like weird or sleazy. So learning all the things like copywriting, marketing, teaching courses, working with the tech, which my camera just decided to move to a different angle. I don't know why.
I did see that. I was like, oh, we're shifting. Okay.
Like, I don't know why I did that. Um, how I related to money, what I did with my finances, what kind of risks I took in my business, what coaches do I hire, what team members do I hire, running a team, while also really deeply serving my clients. So also learning to run retreats, like in-person retreats. So the whole process of being an entrepreneur, and then business structure in the back end and all of these things, it's been one of the deepest transformations of my life, even deeper than living in spiritual communities. It was more profound, more confronting, demanded more of me in terms of emotional regulation, resilience, and confidence than anything else ever.
I can imagine a lot of people who are not in the entrepreneurial mindset don't really know what it's like to be one. The amount of hats you have to wear, the amount of time that you sacrifice, the connections that you have to foster, and the connections that you don't foster enough. All of that kind of burns you out and really forces you to have a lot of mini crises. I know when I was first trying to even just, not even before we get the coaching aspect, just getting the podcast off the ground, thinking of how am I going to market this? What am I going to call it? What do I really want to focus on? Something as small as what day of the week are we going to air an episode? This is something I don't tell a lot of people. It took me 3 weeks to decide what day of the week, what time we air episodes, because there's a science to it. Like the algorithm's always changing. And so we battled with, as the algorithm changed, do I change the time of the show, the day? And I was like, no, there's so much that goes into it, but people don't think about that. They're like, you just come up with an idea and you execute it. No, there are a lot of things along the way, especially because most people don't have a team when they start. So if you were doing that by yourself, like I said, it's a lot. So I understand where you're.
Thanks for saying that, Joshua.
Yeah.
Yeah. More power to you.
Listen, the things we do for our dreams, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was really like I built this from nothing, not knowing where it would take me, because I've just been really, really passionate about helping men, be irresistible to women and truly understand women. Because I, as a woman, when I stopped being in my head all the time and started like relaxing and having fun and relating, I could see like men who are in integrity, in their power, have good boundaries. It's such a gift. Like, it's so amazing. Like, I want you guys to succeed.
And I love that. One thing that, this really will be the last question I have for you. I think it's interesting that a lot more women aren't working with men. Like a lot of women tend to work with women and men with men. But I would love to see more cross-gender work, simply because perspective is massive when it comes to learning or to really reaching an understanding. So the insight that you bring to your clients is monumental. So I just want to commend you for being a pioneer doing that. But
thank you.
I work with guys instead of with men instead of women.
Well, I'm a bit rebellious. And
I'm not
I honestly, yeah,
that's in West Texas in you, okay?
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as a scientist, I was working in a man's world. I was living in my head. I like logic. I like reason, facts. I felt like I could really identify with men. And I've always had a high sex drive too. So I just identified more, I think, with a little bit more male perspective. I also saw that men were being underserved when it came to relating. There were lots of women doing the work, but all I saw was the media shaming men for like being inept or something. And I was like, first of all, shame is not an effective tool for social change. Like, how are we ever? I mean, when people shame me, that doesn't inspire me to want to grow or change. So I wanted to reach across the aisle. And I was curious. I was like, okay, as men, like, what is your experience of women and relating and sex? Like, what really is going on for you guys? And it's been such an honor. It's like been a deep, deep honor. Many men have come to work with me and say it's the first time they've been able to talk about their true desires with a woman without being shamed. And, sometimes men aren't ready to talk to other men yet about relating or intimacy. I think there's a time and place for working with a male coach or therapist, or being in a men's group. But sometimes you just want to work with a woman first because it's easier to open up for some guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that response. Like I said, I think that it's great that you have decided to do this work, and not just on the spiritual and tantric level, but like I said, just working with the men, and especially in that field. But before we get out of here, I need any tech nerds who haven't found you yet, or just men who are curious about tantra and learning how to relate with their partners to connect with you. So
Yes.
Jessica, where can we find you? How do we get in touch? How do we start our journey to?
Great question. So, find me on Facebook is an easy way, Dr. Jessica Gold. You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram, I think, is shadow banned. So, like, I don't, but anyway, it's a good place. You can contact me through Insta at bliss.science. And my website is bliss-science.com. bliss-science.com. So you can find out everything there. And I'm teaching a course on love communication in August. It's a 6-week course for men only to really understand how to communicate better with women in a way that she will love. So you can find me there, get to know me more there. And I run a Facebook group called Passionate Relationships for Powerful Men. There's actually women in the group too, so that we can all learn from each other. And I do 3 live videos per month, and it's super fun. You can ask me all your questions. I love supporting you there.
Well, Dr. Jess, thank you so much for your time again today. I know I'm going to see some of these listeners in your August class because I'm gonna sign up. I'm gonna be there, guys. I know that you've made it all the way to the end of the episode, but your work's not done. I need you to go show her Instagram some love so we can get her out of the shadow jail. I need you to go sign up for these classes because this episode will air in August. So,
Oh, right. I think the 2nd week in August is when it starts, but if you miss the 1st week, you can just watch the recording.
alrighty, guys. Well, I know that if you didn't make it there, you at least signed up to rewatch the recordings. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. I will see all you beautiful people next week for our new episode. And until then, add a book to the bookshelf. Let's read. Let's learn something. Okay. No, but I will see all you guys next week. Dr. Jess, thank you so much for your time.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.